Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome to the Lee Homestead. I'm Aaron, and today's video we're going to learn about how to till a garden. So today I started tilling, and I've got my garden area that I'm wanting to till up. And as you see, the tiller didn't do so hot tilling the first little bit of ground. And by the time I got to here, I was wondering what the heck was going on. So I found out that under this tiller, it's held together by some cotter pins. And so I ended up replacing this one that wasn't running with a bolt, so it's harder to shear out. Because when it hits rocks and things, it'll eventually break either the bolt or the cotter pins. But this thing eats cotter pins, so instead of the cotter pin, I decided to use the full bolt. So now that I got this thing up and running, let's see how it goes. Well, I got the first part done, so I'm getting ready to show you how I actually did it. So I started out, there's a control where it's got the tines going in reverse, and that's how you dig up the dirt deeply and initially break it up. And I'm getting ready to show you how you'll till a little bit faster, a little bit shallower with the tines going forward, so you can make your rows and start to push some of that stuff in the ground. But I've got to pick up a lot of these rocks. Here's one of the big rocks that I'd found earlier. So here was one of the rocks that I'd found that I'd tilled up. I'm glad that I didn't really force it. So I broke a couple of those bolts that I'd showed you earlier, and I'll kind of tell you why here in a second. So if you look up underneath the tiller here, I flip up this. You see where that bolt is? Well, you can shear them if you force it and you hit one of those big rocks. It'll shear those bolts right in two, and it's to protect the machine, but it's supposed to, if you push it, it's supposed to turn. So once you start, you definitely don't want to push it too far in the ground or you end up shearing all those bolts. So I recommend having a bunch of cotter pins and or bolt that you want to continue to replace, because you'll shear through them, especially when you're initially breaking up the ground with the tines in reverse, because it pushes down pretty hard and stresses on those bolts and snaps them. So one way that you can keep from snapping as many, as I found out, instead of pushing down on the tiller, you just let the tiller do the work. You kind of massage it a little bit and you move it forward, and you just let it massage the ground, move it forward, and then you don't shear as many. So after the first couple of rows, and I sheared about 2 or 3, maybe 4 at the most, and I didn't shear any more since then. So now I'm getting ready to show you. I'll go ahead and show you the controls. This controls your different parts of the tiller. So that's in reverse, neutral, forward. So sometimes you gotta play around with it. So that being in reverse is how you end up breaking the ground initially, and then now how I'm gonna end up tilling my rows. I'm gonna end up pushing it into the forward position. And in neutral, you can push it around here and there. You know, it's pretty heavy. It's hard to do with one hand. So I go upward and forwards long ways initially. As you can see, I got a little bit of a curve that I'm gonna have to fix, but it's kind of hard to keep it straight because it just wants to go every which way. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart. So then I'm gonna go through this way now, all the way up and back to make my rows and to help till a little deeper into the ground using the forward. So this is what it looks like when you shear it. So I let it go into that forward tilling mode, and it took off. And so I ended up shearing that bolt just like I was talking about before. So now I'm gonna have to push it back and replace it. And that's all I got done. So what I'll probably end up doing, instead of using this forward tilling method, I'll probably just end up keeping it in reverse and till the whole thing in reverse, because that forward piece, it'll take off with you, and it just sheared the bolt faster than anything. So once again, for the 4th or 5th time, I pushed this back on and shoved another bolt. So time to go ahead and till the rest of my rows. Well, I wasn't able to finish today because I didn't get enough cotter pins, but I'll get some more cotter pins next week and get it. But anyway, it doesn't really take much to finish. I've got the whole thing this way. Now all I have to do is till back and forth the other way to make the rows, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's fairly simple. So this is how you till up a garden. Get a bunch of 1/2 inch either bolts or cotter pins, because anything smaller than that's just gonna snap. Because I had a few smaller bolts that I tried and it just snapped every single time. So don't waste your time with getting the small stuff. Get 1/2 inch, at least with that Husqvarna tiller. It's fantastic, tilled up the ground perfect. Luckily for me, I found out that it wasn't all red clay. It actually has some pretty decent soil to plant. So once it dries out some more, I'm gonna get some more bolts and cotter pins for next week and finish it up. But anyway, thanks for watching.